The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. You ever felt the sting of being turned against by people you once trusted, only to realize it was all part of a narcissist's silent game? This is one of the most painful tricks manipulators play, slowly weaving lies, bending truths, and making others doubt you, while you're left questioning your own reality. But here's the hidden truth. If you're an empath, your sensitivity is not a weakness. It's actually the reason they target you. And it can also become your greatest shield. In this video, we'll uncover why narcissists work so hard to isolate you, how their tactics really work beneath the surface, and most importantly, how you can rise above their manipulation without losing your inner peace. Stay with me until the end, because the final strategy I'll share can completely shift the power dynamic back into your hands. And as you listen, I'd love to hear your own story in the comments. Have you ever experienced this kind of manipulation? If yes, you're not alone here. Hit subscribe if you want more insights like this, because together, we're building a space where empaths are no longer silenced, but strengthened. One of the most destructive weapons in a narcissist's toolbox is what we call the divide and conquer tactic. At first glance, it can look harmless, even subtle. But beneath the surface, it is designed to cut deep, to weaken your support system, and to leave you feeling alone and powerless. The narcissist does this by twisting words, spreading carefully planted rumors, and turning people against one another in ways that often go unnoticed until the damage is already done. Imagine this. You share something personal with a friend in confidence, but somehow that private detail resurfaces in a twisted form passed around as gossip. You start to notice subtle shifts, people acting differently toward you, conversations falling quiet when you walk in, a certain distance that was never there before. This is not by accident. It is the narcissist's calculated way of making sure the spotlight is no longer on them, but on you. The genius of this manipulation lies in how believable it feels to others. Narcissists often deliver half-truths or small exaggerations that seem plausible, and they do it with just enough charm or authority that people rarely question them. They know how to plant seeds of doubt, often saying things like, "I'm only telling you this because I care," or "Don't mention I said anything, but you should really know." With these small, seemingly harmless phrases, they weave a narrative that paints you as unreliable, unstable, or even untrustworthy. Over time, the people around you start to believe it, not because they want to hurt you, but because the narcissist has slowly, deliberately reshaped how they see you.
Empaths are often seen as the healers, the listeners, the ones who naturally absorb the emotions of those around them. They walk into a room and can sense the tension before a word is spoken. They notice the pain behind a smile, and they are the first to offer comfort when someone feels unseen. These qualities make empaths deeply compassionate and trustworthy, but it is also the very reason narcissists are drawn to them like magnets. To a manipulator, the empath's open heart looks less like strength and more like opportunity. They see someone who is willing to forgive easily, someone who avoids conflict, someone who would rather carry the burden themselves than see another person suffer. And this is exactly the kind of personality that can be twisted and controlled if left unguarded. For the narcissist, an empath is a perfect supply source. Empaths provide endless validation, attention, and emotional energy, things the narcissist craves but can never truly create for themselves. Where others may walk away from the narcissist's constant demands or cruel behavior, the empath stays, trying harder to understand, to heal, to fix what feels broken. The narcissist knows this, and they exploit it fully. They test boundaries early on, perhaps through small lies or subtle guilt trips. And when the empath doesn't push back, they push further. Over time, the narcissist creates a cycle where the empath gives and gives, while the narcissist takes and takes, leaving the empath drained and questioning their own worth. What makes the dynamic even more dangerous is the empath's deep need for harmony. They hate conflict, and the narcissist thrives on it. So while the empath is working hard to smooth things over to keep the peace, the narcissist is using that effort as proof that their manipulation is working. When lies are told, the empath questions themselves instead of the liar. When boundaries are crossed, the empath wonders if they were too harsh instead of holding the narcissist accountable. This self-doubt is exactly what the narcissist wants. It keeps the empath in a state of confusion, always second-guessing, always vulnerable to further exploitation. But being a target does not mean being powerless. In fact, once an empath understands why they are being chosen, the entire game begins to change. Recognizing that your kindness and sensitivity are not flaws, but strengths, allows you to stand in them more firmly. Boundaries then become a form of self-respect, not punishment. Saying no longer feels cruel. It feels necessary. And when the narcissist realizes they can no longer drain you, they either escalate temporarily or eventually lose interest, because their control depends on your willingness to bend. The moment you stop bending, the tactic loses its power.
When it comes to narcissistic manipulation, the signs are rarely loud or obvious at first. In fact, the most dangerous manipulations are often hidden in the smallest gestures, the subtle tones, and the unspoken shifts in behavior that most people overlook. That's why spotting these early signs is so important. The sooner you recognize the patterns, the sooner you can protect yourself from being pulled into the narcissist's web. One of the first red flags lies in body language. Pay attention to how the narcissist positions themselves in conversations. They may lean in with false warmth, only to use that closeness to control the direction of the talk. Or they might cross their arms and tilt their head with a smirk when you express your feelings, sending the silent message that your emotions are silly or unimportant. These small physical cues are their way of keeping the upper hand without having to say a word. Tone of voice is another powerful tool. Narcissists often use a condescending or patronizing tone to make you feel inferior, even if their actual words sound harmless. For example, they might say, "Relax, I was just joking," but in a voice that drips with mockery. Over time, this leaves you second-guessing your own reactions, wondering if you're overreacting or too sensitive. That's the trap. They want you doubting yourself so they can continue to chip away at your confidence. Then there are the subtle contradictions in their behavior. One moment they shower you with praise, making you feel special and valued. The next, they withdraw affection or become cold without explanation. This push and pull dynamic creates a constant state of emotional confusion, where you're always trying to figure out what went wrong or how to get back into their good graces. That unpredictability is intentional. It keeps you walking on eggshells, focused on pleasing them, rather than noticing how manipulated you've become. Another key sign is how they speak about others. Narcissists will often gossip or subtly criticize people when they're not around, planting seeds of distrust. They might say, "I don't think she likes you very much," or "He told me something about you, but I probably shouldn't say." These vague comments are designed to make you feel isolated and suspicious, drawing you closer to the narcissist as your only supposed ally. The truth is, narcissistic manipulation thrives on subtlety because it hides in plain sight. Friends, coworkers, even family members may not notice what's happening because the narcissist's tactics are so carefully disguised as charm, concern, or even humor. But if you learn to trust your gut when something feels off, you begin to see the cracks in their performance. Your intuition will pick up the shift in their eyes when they lie, the pause before they twist your words, the fake laugh that covers their criticism. Once you see these signs for what they are, not random quirks, but deliberate strategies, you reclaim a sense of clarity. And with that clarity comes power. Because the moment you can spot the game, you're no longer forced to play it.
When a narcissist spreads lies or twists stories about you, one of the first things that suffers is your reputation. Suddenly, people you thought were on your side may start pulling away, and you feel like you're being judged for something you never even did. This can be one of the hardest parts of dealing with a manipulator, because it doesn't just affect you, it affects how others see you and how your relationships begin to shift. But here's the good news. There are ways to protect your image and keep your connections strong, even when false stories are circulating. The first step is to stay calm. That may sound simple, but it's not easy when you feel cornered. Narcissists want you to explode, to react in anger or desperation, because then they can point to your reaction as proof of their lies. If you stay steady, even when you're hurt, people will notice. Your calmness becomes a quiet way of showing that you have nothing to hide. Next, focus on your actions more than your words. When rumors spread, it's tempting to defend yourself to everyone and explain your side again and again, but often that just makes you look defensive. Instead, let your consistent behavior speak for you. Be reliable, kind, and authentic, qualities that can't be faked for long. Over time, people will compare the lies they've heard with the truth they see in how you live, and the truth will start to stand out. Another important step is strengthening the relationships that matter most. Instead of trying to convince everyone, invest your time in the people who already know your heart. These are the friends, family members, or coworkers who have seen your character over time and trust you. When you nurture those bonds, you create a circle of support that can't be easily shaken by gossip. These strong connections also serve as proof of who you are, because the people who truly know you will often speak up on your behalf when others try to tear you down. It's also wise to set clear boundaries. If you know someone is being used as a messenger for the narcissist's stories, limit how much personal information you share with them. Protect your privacy and don't feed the gossip mill with extra details that can be twisted. Boundaries don't have to be loud or dramatic. They can simply be quiet decisions about what you will and won't allow into your life. Finally, remember that your reputation is built over time, not in one moment. Lies may spread quickly, but the truth has a way of lasting. When you live in alignment with your values, people eventually see through the noise. Some may take longer than others, but the reality is that false stories crumble while integrity holds. Protecting your reputation isn't about fighting every rumor. It's about standing so firmly in who you are that the lies can't stick.
When a narcissist manages to turn others against you, the outside world can start to feel like pure chaos. People you once trusted may suddenly question you, distance themselves,
or even believe the lies that have been spread. In moments like these, the most important thing you can hold on to is your inner strength. Because while you can't always control how others see you, you can control how you carry yourself through the storm. The first step is reminding yourself that their opinions don't define your worth. When the crowd shifts, it's easy to think, maybe they're right about me. Or, if so many people believe this, it must be true. But remember, those people are often only hearing one side of the story, the side that was carefully crafted by the manipulator. Your truth doesn't vanish just because others can't see it right now. Holding on to that thought helps you stay steady, even when everything around you feels shaky. Another way to protect your balance is by staying grounded in daily practices that calm your mind. This could be journaling your feelings, going for long walks, practicing breathing exercises, or simply giving yourself quiet time away from the noise. These simple habits remind you that your peace doesn't have to depend on other people's approval. When the world outside feels loud, your inner world becomes your safe place. It's also important to shift your focus from those who turned against you to the people who still stand beside you. Even if it's just one or two close friends, their support can anchor you when others feel distant. By leaning on that small circle, you remind yourself that not everyone is fooled and not everyone is walked away. Quality of connection always matters more than quantity of voices. Another key piece of inner strength is refusing to fight fire with fire. The narcissist wants you to lash out, defend yourself aggressively, or sink into bitterness, because that reaction gives them more control. But when you stay composed, when you answer cruelty with dignity, you show the difference between you and them, without having to say a word. Sometimes your silence, your calmness, and your ability to walk with your head held high become the loudest statement of all. Finally, keep in mind that chaos doesn't last forever. People eventually see patterns. They notice the manipulator repeating the same behavior with others. They notice your consistency over time, and slowly the truth begins to surface. Inner strength means trusting that you don't have to rush that process. You just need to stay centered, to keep living in alignment with who you truly are, and to remember that storms always pass. So when the crowd seems to turn against you, hold firm. Breathe, ground yourself, and choose dignity over despair. Because your strength doesn't come from the approval of others.
Pain caused by manipulation cuts deeply, especially for empaths who feel every emotion with intensity. When lies spread and relationships are tested, the weight of that hurt can feel overwhelming. But pain does not have to be the end of the story. In fact, it can become the very force that strengthens you. Turning pain into power is not about ignoring what you've been through. It's about learning to use the experience as fuel to rise above and reclaim control over your life. The first step is shifting perspective. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" try asking, "What can this teach me?" That change in mindset doesn't erase the hurt, but it allows you to see meaning in it. Pain becomes less about the wound itself and more about the growth it sparks. For an empath, this can mean realizing that your compassion and openness are not flaws. They are gifts that simply need stronger boundaries around them. Another strategy is practicing emotional detachment from the manipulator. This doesn't mean shutting down your empathy, but it does mean refusing to give the narcissist access to your emotional energy. When they push your buttons, stay calm. When they twist stories, resist the urge to explain yourself endlessly. Instead, protect your energy by stepping back,
keeping conversations short, and refusing to engage in their games. Every time you choose not to react, you take back a piece of the control they tried to steal. Rebuilding your self-worth is also key. Manipulation leaves scars of self-doubt, but you can heal them by surrounding yourself with people who see your true value. Invest your energy in relationships that are uplifting, not draining. Spend time doing things that make you feel capable, creative, and alive. The more you reconnect with what makes you strong, the less room there is for the manipulator's lies to define you. It's equally powerful to set clear boundaries. Think of boundaries not as walls, but as doors. You decide who gets access and how far they're allowed to come in. For empaths, this can mean saying no without guilt, walking away from toxic conversations, or cutting off contact when necessary. Boundaries may feel uncomfortable at first, but they are the foundation of reclaiming your freedom. Each one is a statement that says, "I respect myself enough not to be used." Finally, use your experience to inspire resilience, not fear. The pain you've endured can become a guide for others who face similar struggles. Sharing your story, even with just one person, transforms something that once weighed you down into something that lifts others up. In that way, your pain doesn't just heal, you turn it into purpose. So when a narcissist's manipulation leaves you broken, remember this: the wound is not the ending. It is the beginning of your strength. Each boundary you set, each moment you stay calm, and each step you take toward healing is proof that pain can be transformed. And once you turn that pain into power, the manipulator no longer defines your story. You do.